She said it so easily, like those words didn't scrape against my chest when they left her mouth. It's just a phase, she told me, as if what I felt could fade like a season. But even then, I knew it wasn't going anywhere. It started in the simplest way. A quiet evening. A soft laugh. The kind of silence that hums between two people who don't know if they should speak or stay still. She was sitting across from me, a cup of tea between her hands, the steam curling against her face. 44. Graceful in a way that didn't try to be. Every gesture she made had weight. The way she pushed her hair behind her ear, the way her eyes lingered when she thought I wasn't looking. I was 26. Old enough to know what I wanted, but young enough to doubt if I should want it. There was something about her calmness that made every thought louder in my head. She never said much at once, just small, careful things that lingered long after. I'd watch her mouth form a smile that never reached her eyes, and I'd wonder what part of her she kept hidden from the world. From me. The air between us felt almost physical. Every time she leaned closer, even slightly, my pulse adjusted. I could smell her perfume, faint jasmine and something deeper, and it stayed with me longer than it should have. She laughed at something I said, but her voice cracked halfway through, as if even her laughter had limits. You shouldn't take me so seriously, she said, looking down. I don't, I lied. Her eyes lifted, calm, unreadable. But then her fingers brushed mine on the table, light, uncertain. It wasn't an accident. Not quite. The moment stretched until it felt like the room itself had stopped breathing. You're quiet, she said softly. I'm just listening. To what? I hesitated. You. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but didn't. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. Outside, the street lights flickered on, scattering gold light through the window. She turned toward it, her profile bathed in that glow, and for a second, I forgot to blink. I wanted to reach out, to trace the line of her jaw, to ask what she was so afraid of. But something about the look in her eyes stopped me, that quiet warning, that gentle distance she carried like armor. You'll get bored, she whispered suddenly. You're supposed to. Is that what you tell yourself? It's what keeps things simple. But nothing about her felt simple. The silence grew heavier, until she finally exhaled, a sound that almost broke me. You should go, she said, her voice lower now, almost trembling. I stood, but neither of us moved toward the door. Her hand reached for the cup again, but missed it by an inch. My hand caught hers before it fell. Warm. Small tremor. Neither of us said a word. Outside, the faint rumble of a car pulling up echoed through the quiet house. Headlights slid across the wall. Her eyes flicked toward the window, and in that second, everything changed. Her fingers slipped from mine. Her expression, gone from soft to unreadable. And all she said, barely above a whisper, was, "Don't." The sound of the front door opening cut through the air. And before I could ask who it was, she turned away. To be continued. That night didn't end when I walked out her door. It followed me, in the smell of her perfume on my sleeve, in the way her voice kept repeating that one word in my head, "Don't." For days we didn't talk. Not because we didn't want to, but because silence was safer than whatever waited behind it. I told myself she was right, that it was better this way, but I still found excuses to see her. A book she'd lent me, a message about something trivial. Each time, her replies were polite. Careful. And yet, when I stood at her door again a week later, she didn't look surprised. Forgot something? She asked quietly. Yeah, I said, even though I hadn't. The house felt colder this time. She was wearing a loose gray sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup, like she hadn't expected anyone. She moved differently when she wasn't pretending to be composed. There was a softness, something unguarded. Tea? She offered. Always. While she poured, I noticed the small photo frame near the counter, her and someone else. A man. Older. Maybe a husband. Maybe a ghost. She caught me looking. He's gone, she said simply. I nodded, not knowing if she meant gone as in left or gone as in never coming back. We sat again across the same table. The same distance. But it didn't feel the same. You shouldn't keep coming here, she said, stirring her tea though it didn't need it. I know. Then why do you? I don't know, I said though I did. She smiled, that half smile that always came before something she didn't want to admit. You remind me of someone I used to be, she murmured. And you. I stopped. You make me forget who I am. For a long time, neither of us moved. The clock ticked. The air felt heavier. She looked up, eyes tired but bright, as if holding two opposite truths at once. People talk, she said finally. Let them. They don't understand. Neither do I. She laughed softly, shaking her head. You're too young to know what's at stake. I leaned forward slightly. And you're too scared to find out. The words hit harder than I meant. Her breath caught, not from anger, but from something closer to recognition. The kind that hurts and heals at once. Her hand brushed the edge of the table, fingers trembling, and for a second I thought she'd pull away. Instead, she let them rest there. Close enough for my hand to cover hers. She didn't stop me. Her skin was warm. Her pulse steady but fast. The kind of silence between us wasn't empty, it was thick, charged, full of everything neither of us could say. She drew in a slow breath. I felt it before I heard it, the faint movement of her chest, the scent of her tea and skin mixing in the still air. You should go, she whispered again, but it sounded nothing like before. Say that like you mean it, I said quietly. Her eyes lifted, uncertain, searching, then softened. She didn't answer. Instead, her fingers turned slightly, lacing with mine, only for a heartbeat. Just long enough for me to know this wasn't a phase. This was the start of something neither of us were ready to name. It had been weeks since that night at her table, but nothing between us went back to normal. Every time we spoke, it felt like standing too close to a flame, knowing it would burn, but still not stepping away. She had started avoiding me, pretending not to notice the messages I didn't send but wanted to. Pretending not to care that I'd stopped by and left before knocking. But distance only made the wanting worse. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't planned. She was outside, tending to the small plants by her porch, hair pulled into a messy knot, sunlight catching the fine lines near her eyes. I froze, she didn't. You shouldn't be here, she said softly, without looking up. I know, I replied, stepping closer anyway. The silence stretched. Wind brushed the leaves, carrying her scent, jasmine and something faintly warm, like rain that hadn't fallen yet. She turned then, finally meeting my eyes. You make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not the one pretending it doesn't matter. Her jaw tightened. It can't matter. Then why do you keep looking at me like that? She stopped breathing for a second. Her hands, still holding the small watering can, trembled. That's not fair, she whispered. Neither is wanting someone you can have, I said, voice low. Her eyes softened, not angry, just tired of pretending. You think I don't feel it too? She said, stepping closer, barely a foot between us now. The air shifted. I could see the pulse in her throat, the way her breath came uneven. Her hand brushed my arm when she moved past me, and that single touch undid all the distance we had built. Don't, she said again, but this time it sounded like a plea. I can't, I said before I even thought the words. She turned sharply, standing close enough that I could feel the warmth from her skin. Her fingers rose, not to touch, but to stop herself from doing so. You don't know what this would cost me. I swallowed hard. I don't care about the cost. Her lips parted, a breath caught, half a word lost. Her eyes dropped to my mouth, then back to my eyes, as if fighting something she already knew was losing. The world around us went quiet. No cars, no birds, no noise, just the sound of her heartbeat syncing with mine. Say something, I murmured. She stepped in, close enough that her breath touched my cheek. Her hand reached up slowly, brushing a stray strand of hair from my forehead. Her fingertips lingered there, trembling, tracing the line of my face as if memorizing it. "This is wrong," she whispered. "Then why does it feel right?" She hesitated, her lips only inches away. I could feel the heat between us, the pull that neither of us had the strength to break anymore. Her next breath brushed against my skin, soft, uneven, real. And then, the sound of a door creaked open behind us. We both froze. Her eyes darted toward the sound, wide, panicked, filled with everything she couldn't say out loud. I didn't move. Neither did she. The world held its breath with us, 1 second away from the moment that could change everything. The creak of the door hadn't been imagined, it was real, sharp, and enough to send a jolt through both of us. Her hand dropped instantly, and she stepped back, trying to compose herself as a familiar voice called her name from inside the house. I didn't move. Couldn't. My heart was hammering too loud to hear anything else. She turned to me then, her eyes wide, every trace of calm slipping away. "You need to go," she whispered urgently. "Now." I nodded, but I didn't move fast enough. Before I could step off the porch, a man's shadow filled the doorway. His voice was casual, but his expression wasn't. "Didn't expect company this early," he said. Her tone changed instantly, smooth, practiced. "He was just dropping something off for me." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, just a book she lent me." The man's gaze lingered on me, studying the silence between us that neither of us knew how to hide. Then he nodded, slow, deliberate. "Right. Well, thanks for returning it." I mumbled something about being late and walked away, feeling her eyes burning into my back. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Later that night, I got a message, short, uneven, her words typed in haste. "He knows something's off. Don't come by for a while." For a while. Not forever. Still, the space between us grew like a wall neither of us knew how to climb. Days passed before I saw her again. She was at the cafe we both pretended not to frequent for each other's sake. She didn't see me at first, her hair down this time, sunglasses half hiding the exhaustion on her face. I almost turned away. But then she looked up. And I knew she'd been waiting. I sat down across from her without a word. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "Neither should you," I said quietly. Her lips twitched, not a smile, just something that wanted to be one but didn't dare. "He asked me if I'd been seeing someone." My stomach tightened. "And?" "I lied," she said, voice shaking just enough to betray her calm. "But I think he already knows." I stared at her. "Then why meet me here?" She exhaled, eyes glassy, but her voice steady. "Because I don't like pretending I don't feel what I feel." Her confession landed between us like a spark, dangerous and alive. The sound of the cafe faded. It was just her, just the quiet tremor in her hands when she reached for the cup she didn't drink from. "You don't have to explain," I said, barely above a whisper. "But I do," she replied, eyes locked on mine. "Because this isn't just a phase for you, is it?" I shook my head. "It never was." She leaned forward then, her fingers brushing mine across the table, a touch small enough to hide, but heavy enough to mean everything. Her hand trembled, and mine did too. "You're making it impossible to walk away," she whispered. "Then don't." Her eyes softened, filling with something that wasn't just fear, it was want, conflict, and the kind of truth that couldn't be taken back once spoken. And yet, before either of us could say another word, her phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her go pale. She didn't answer it. Just looked at me, breath shallow. "He's outside," she said quietly. The world narrowed to a single heartbeat, hers, mine, both racing toward what came next. And this time neither of us moved. The rain came first, quiet, then harder, tapping against the windows like it was keeping count of everything unsaid between us. She stood by the window, arms folded, her reflection trembling in the glass. I was across the room, but it felt like there was no space left to breathe. "He saw us," she said finally. Her voice was calm, but her fingers weren't, they kept tracing the edge of her sleeve, again and again. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. I swallowed hard. So that's it, then? She turned, eyes meeting mine, and for the first time she didn't hide. You think this is simple? I think pretending it doesn't matter hurts worse than whatever comes after, I said, stepping closer. You keep saying it's wrong, but you keep coming back. Her jaw tightened. Don't make this harder. I'm not, I said softly. You are. Silence. Just the sound of rain and her breathing, uneven, shallow, breaking between words she didn't say. When I took another step toward her, she didn't move away this time. I told myself it was just a moment, she whispered. That if I stayed in control, it wouldn't turn into this. What is this? Her eyes flickered down, then up again, raw, unguarded. It's everything I shouldn't want. I was close enough to see the shimmer in her eyes, the pulse in her throat, the way her lips parted like she was about to speak but couldn't find the words. My hand hovered near hers, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin. If I touch you, I said quietly, you'll never be able to pretend again. She gave a small, almost broken laugh, the kind that comes right before surrender. Then why are you still asking? The room shrank around us. Her perfume mixed with rain and the faint smell of coffee that had gone cold on the table. Every second stretched into something heavier, something that felt like falling. I reached up, brushing a strand of damp hair from her face. She closed her eyes, not to escape, but to let go. My fingers lingered at her jaw, tracing the line of her neck, stopping just before the space where hesitation still lived. You'll regret this, she whispered. I already regret not doing it sooner. Her breath hitched. The air between us was alive, electric, impossible to ignore. When her forehead rested against mine, it wasn't passion, it was relief, exhaustion, the quiet collapse of everything we'd both been holding back. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The rain softened, and for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. Then she whispered, If we do this, we lose everything. I met her eyes, steady now. If we don't, we lose us. A long pause. One heartbeat. Then another. And just as her lips brushed the edge of mine, a whisper, not a kiss, the doorbell rang. Her eyes opened, wide, startled. We didn't move. Didn't breathe. It was the sound of choice, and it was waiting on the other side of that door. The knock at the door faded into silence. Neither of us moved at first. It was as if the whole world had paused, waiting for us to decide what came next. She exhaled slowly, her shoulders trembling just enough for me to notice. Then she stepped back, just one small step, like she was trying to remind herself that she could. I can't, she said softly. Not like this. I nodded, even though every part of me wanted to pull her closer. I know. Her gaze lifted, meeting mine again, and there it was, everything we'd been trying to hide. Fear. Want. The impossible mix of right and wrong that had lived between us for too long. I've spent half my life being careful, she whispered. Keeping things quiet, proper. Making sure no one ever saw the cracks. And now? She smiled, tired but real. Now I just want to feel something that doesn't come with regret. The air was still heavy between us, but softer somehow, not with tension, but understanding. I reached out slowly, giving her the choice. She looked at my hand for a long second, then took it. Her fingers were warm, steady. It wasn't a desperate grip. It was something quieter, something that said she was done pretending. We didn't say much after that. We just stood there, hands linked, the sound of the rain outside turning into a gentle rhythm against the glass. When she finally leaned her head on my shoulder, it didn't feel forbidden anymore. It just felt human, two people who'd finally stopped fighting what was already there. I could feel her breath against my neck, the soft rise and fall of it calming everything inside me. My hand brushed along her arm, slow, unhurried, grounding us both in the moment. You know this doesn't get easier, I said quietly. I don't want easy, she replied. I want honest. For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed her. She lifted her head then, looking at me with that half-smile that always gave her away. Her thumb traced the edge of my jaw, small, tender, and final in its certainty. No grand words. No promises. Just truth between breaths. Her lips pressed against my forehead, a kiss that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, the world was still. We sat together on the couch, hands still intertwined, saying nothing, because finally, there was nothing left to hide. What had started as a quiet, impossible thing now felt real enough to stay. And when she finally whispered, "Don't go just yet," I knew I wouldn't. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?